This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Maggi, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, as we get started, we want to thank our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. You can visit scrapinthecoast.com for more information. Their next event, 22nd annual, is going to be the last weekend in June. They haven't yet announced it for 2024, but rest assured we will be out there. One of the biggest, baddest shows in the country. Get ready for more information coming soon on Scrapin' the Coast. Tap on the hashtag #ScrapinTheCoast for more information. We appreciate the continued support of Custom Car Show Productions. Dude, imagine if I think all the smoke's coming from Hank. Because, you remember Cheech and Chong, the movies, like when the smoke's billowing out of the vehicles? Dude, I haven't seen smoke all over the entire state in this long. And honestly, it kind of reminds me that Hank could be kind of just floating in the town, dude, heading down the Naples.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, okay.
So we can bang this out, dude.
No, I love when you say let's bang it out.
Yo, it's ODB. This is OLP, your Mini Truckin headquarters. And I think I heard, is that Hank or is that Miggity Mike the Mayor? I see smoke blowing all over Florida. It's got to be Hank floating in the town. Hank, is that you there?
It's me, ODB. I'm higher than a fucking kite right now, dog.
Dude, there is so much smoke blowing in over Florida. Maybe you guys have heard about it. We think he's got like a 1977 Dodge van with the back jacked up. I think I heard that he crossed state lines earlier. Dude, there is smoke bellowing. Hammered weekend wear Hank, right? We're talking about Hammer and Hank. Right, Mike? He was coming down to try to coerce you into some hurricane hunting, wasn't he?
Bro, I think what he did is he stole. Okay, this is what I heard. He stole one of those Goodyear blimps, and he's high as a kite right now, and so he's like flying all over the United States, and just, dude, you remember Cheech and Chong Up in Smoke?
Yes.
So it's Hank up in smoke.
Hey, did you see the lights of the Goodyear blimp? And it said, what did it say on it? Hank Norris?
I think it said, "Don't worry, OD is still not a pimp."
Dude, Hank Norris from Hammered Weekend Wear, the guy is insane. We think it could be a rumor that the entire state is blanketed with smoke because he hasn't been drinking, so he's got to dabble in something, Mike. You know what I mean? I mean, it could be Camel Joe's. I mean, that's the thing. He kind of keeps it where you just don't know what he's dabbling in.
Well, from what I understand is it's Camel Joe's, and he's got a whole bunch of hose filling up that. Yes, that damn blimp is full.
And for the families that are out there listening, we're talking about he's a gardener, right? So he's got a bed, and when he goes, like he's got the pot and soil, and he's got he goes to Home Depot and they're right, not back hose, they're regular hose, and he's got hose, and he's got the green hoses too. So, he's prepared wherever he goes, Mike. Let's be honest. But, Mike, this episode 341, we got a jam-packed episode. We want to thank our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. You heard at the top, Scrapin' the Coast 2024 is going down next June. There's going to be some big developments coming with it. We're excited. We hope that you will gallivant on out there with us. Mini Truck Hall of Fame, Scrapin' the Coast. But, Mike, on this episode, we're going to try to get with Joey Whitby because, he's been over there banging on the dash. And every time there's trivia, he thinks now he's going to try to come after you because he thinks if he cracks his dash from pounding on it, during the trivia, that he can somehow get you to pay for it. So I said, I don't know if that's going to work, but I could see the ruse that he's trying to do.
Oh, I see what he's got cooking, and it definitely ain't going to work. Only I can be the one that gets this damn the trivia wrong, and nobody else but me. It's set up for me to fail, and we don't want to see nobody else fail. So it's just me that's doing this trivia.
I like it, Mike. Now we are also going to talk. We are OLP. We are your Mini Truckin headquarters, And we're going to talk to Doug Kulp. Mike, you met him at one of our favorite shows, the Spark Show. And how awesome was it to see Doug out there? And if you think about Mini Truckin Magazine, what Logan Wade's doing, right? Him and his team and some of the casting characters that he's pulling together, like a Michelle Boone, right? And it just, the Corey Floyds. And, I mean, I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse. I mean, I think some of these folks are going to be kind of under that umbrella. But, to have him out there and then meet the man, the myth, the legend, Doug Kulp, we're going to have him on, Mike.
Bro, super nice guy. And it's just really cool to know that he was, one of the originals. And it was really cool to see him meet up with the new age mini truck. The whole crew was there with the new Mini Truckin Magazine there at Sevierville. So it was cool to see all of them come together and meet and tell all the stories. And it's always good that's what's so good about the scene and so good about these shows. And just the people that you meet and the stories, behind them.
Yeah, no doubt. So hopefully we'll link up with Joey Whitby, his son possibly, and we'll have Doug Kulp on. Again, you're not going to want to miss it because Doug goes all the way back to issue 1 of Mini Truckin Magazine this summer of '88. Man, I'm kind of talking myself into the old man deal now. But the episode overview is brought to you by our family at Hammered Weekend Wear. They've been with us since the beginning, HAMMERD. Weekendwear.com, Mike. And dude, Adam and Dizzy, they continue to refresh the website. When you go there, we got to up our game, dude. They've got all of their shirts plastered right there. The Bride, Freestyle and OBS. Oh, by the way, Top Dog, I tried to talk them out of putting a banana hammock on a shirt, but it didn't work, Mike.
Yeah, I'm sure they regret that now. But hey, it's on there. It made it, and it's all good, man.
Yep. And I got to say, the tacos and tequila, it's a fan favorite I'm hearing. So big ups to the family at Hammered Weekend Wear.
Hey, Game Over is probably one of my favorite of all time.
Mike, I've heard you playing some little flip in the banana hammock, so I cannot wait to see this reenacted, with the shirt on, you know what I mean? It's going to be crazy. But, dude, Mike, the general updates, man, I hate to dovetail into, I always kind of give you a hard time, but I'm going to give myself a hard time, dude. The Pack came back against the Saints. Didn't really get a chance to talk about that. Unbelievable comeback. Really probably shouldn't have happened because they just didn't play good the whole game. But, of course, the Pack go down to the Lions. And dare I say the Lions might be the new kings of the NFC North for now, Mike. We'll have to see.
Well, I don't know for how long, but as of right now, they definitely are the new kings of the NFC South.
I hate to hear that, Mike. Now, here, I got a bone to pick with you, man, because Hank texts me and he goes, dude, you got to give Mike a hard time on the next episode because there's 2 words that come to mind. I was the last to know, and I thought I kind of kept my ear to the scene, but there's a show, I'm trying to remember the name, it was After Dark, I believe is what it was called, or Dark Matter. And my understanding is it's coming back, but there was a little bit of intel that I had gotten from you earlier in the week. Do you mind breaking it down here, or are you allowed to share? Are you still under that NDA?
No. It's absolutely, man. Basically, quick story. Brian Weeks and Robert with Sunset. They wanted to throw a nighttime show. I got way too much other shit going on that I was like, hey, would you be interested? I threw out a number and they said absolutely. So they took over After Dark, and as you've seen, they just posted up, and it's going to go down now February 18th there, Quaker Steak and Lube. So make sure you guys are hitting up the page, hitting up the page and getting those VIP spots and hitting them up for vendor spots and sponsorships. So come out and have a damn good time, because it was always a fun show, and now I'm going to be able to go out. I got my VIP spot already, and I know OLP is going to be there, so we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, After Dark, I think they're going to put their own spin on it. The chicka 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 remix, dude. Roll the windows up when the temp goes up to the mid 80s, kind of some M joints. But dude, seriously, that's the weekend after the big game, right? Because we can't say the SB words here, right? because like we don't want to get in trouble. But the big game is
Yes.
Sunday, February the 11th, 2024. So sounds like it's going to be that next weekend, and I like it, Mike, because it's close to me.
Oh, it's right down the road for you.
Oh yeah, the general update's brought to you by our kinfolk at Lone Star Throwdown, Mike. Where we're going to be next February. Speaking of February, the from the time of this recording, about 142 days, which doesn't sound like a lot. February 23rd, 24th, 25th, Conroe, Texas. Mike, LST 2024 hashtag's already popping off. Go tap on that hashtag and follow it for more on LST next year. Mike, I got one question for you. Are you ready?
Now it's time to get serious.
Are you ready? Dude, I am always ready.
This one's going to be a fun one. You may get it, you may not. According to the hit 1981 song, Tommy Two-Tone, if you dial 867-5309, you will reach a woman with the what first name? So, according to the 1981 hit song, Tommy Two-Tone, Tutone, if you dial 867-309, you will reach a woman, a woe man, right? That's from Axe Murderer. So I married an Axe Murderer. You'll reach a woe man with the first name, this. And the only clue I'm going to give you, there was another famous person with this name that had the last name Craig. So Mike's, so just for those at home, because I got to kind of narrate this, Mike, for those scoring at home, Mike is trying to sing through the song right now. You know what I mean? Because I would try to do that too. I mean, Tommy Two-Tone.
Yeah, I know Tommy Two-Tone. So you're asking me what the girl's name?
Yep. When he calls that number, what's the girl's name at the other end that he's going to talk to?
Is it Jane?
Close. You got the J. I'm going to give you one more, Mike, because I mean we're kind of getting typecasted here as the biggest a-holes.
Now, who would do such a thing like that?
I don't know, man. I think Hank's out
Come
there
on.
slewing our name through the ground.
Never.
The name
Never.
the song was written by Alex Call and Jim Keller, performed by Tommy Two-Tone, that was released on the album Tommy Two-Tone 2. 8675
309.
Who's going to answer, dude?
Bro, I know the number, but I don't know who fucking, I don't know.
Jenny.
Jenny.
And there was the famous Jenny Craig, dude. So, again, we got to make it fun, because the Joey Whitbys are out there. I mean, probably ripping their dashboards out, kind of like a Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
You know how he'd rip his shirt? These guys are now doing the dude, Mr. T ripping the taxi door off. I mean, I've seen it, Mike.
That poor dash of his, man. God dang it. All these damn ones I've gotten wrong. I bet you he's killed that fucking dash.
The poor dash, dude. Trivia with Mike brought to you by The Spark Show, one of our favorite shows every August, Sevierville, which is a stone's throw from Pigeon Forge, Mike. We love this event, thesparkshow.com. I hope to see you guys out there next year, because it's that awesome of a show. Mike, all you need is an endorsement like this. When Phil Fowler says, yo, this show was popping off, I'll be there next year. Dude, say no more. The Spark Show, 2024.
Oh, always a good time, man. Always a good time.
Mike ODB Live and Uncut, or Miggity Mike the Mayor Live and Uncut. I don't really have much this week, so I just wanted to see, is there any one thing that you've kind of seen out there, maybe the feeling that you got going on right now? I know you've been hustling. You're ready for the holidays. The snowbirds are kind of floating back in town. Hell, Hank's floating back in town with smoke clouds, crazier than Pigpen from freaking Charlie Brown, dude. So, what are you predicting for the rest of this year? All hustle?
Well, it's definitely all hustle, and obviously we're going to be preparing for Eastbound Get Down, January 12th through the 14th. I hope you guys, pre-registration's open. Get your parking spots. Get your Pavilion VIP parking spots. Sign up to be a vendor. Sponsorship still available. Let us know. We can help you out with all that. But this weekend, everybody that's heading up to Showdown in the Valley, you guys have a great trip. Enjoy. It's supposed to be nice and cool up there. It should be a great time. Not going to make it. Got too much work going on right now. But everybody heading up there. I believe there's a lot of them leaving Thursday from Florida, and especially Scotty the Body. and Mrs. Body, you guys, have a safe trip up there and enjoy the show, man. It should be beautiful weather, and those guys. It looks like they've been pushing hard, and it looks like a great show is about to go down up there in the valley.
Yeah, and I did want to link up with those guys. It just didn't kind of work out with what I got going on, but we highly would suggest this event. Unfortunately, a few years ago when Mini Nats had gotten pushed to October, that was an unfortunate thing, but it had a lot of people scratching their head going, man, this time of year, it's nice, and it led to this, right? I mean, that's how shows kind of start, but we wish them all the success, and we know these guys have supported a lot of different events, and we know that they're out there hustling, and they're going to do, I think they're going to do big things, Mike.
No, I definitely think you're going to do big things, and those guys, have done a tremendous job of pushing that show. They got great sponsors, and they're a good group of guys. So, and obviously everybody knows the venue. So it's a great venue, and tell you what, this time of year, man, it's gonna be a little chilly, but at the same time, I think it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be a nice change. So wish them nothing but the best, and make sure you guys drive safe and enjoy it.
No doubt. ODB or Miggity Mike the Mayor live and uncut this week is brought to you by our family at Get Decked. Joey Dilworth at Get Decked. If you're a show promoter, or maybe you want to put your main squeezes, aka your husband or wife, vehicle on a skate deck, hit up Joey Dilworth. Get Decked. That's Get Decked _VA on Instagram, or Joey Dilworth on Facebook. He just did some for Sean over at Rad BMX Build, so he continues to expand out. And Mike, I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table in 2024. Can't wait. The scene updates, Mike, I had saved some things. A very unfortunate thing happened the other day. I woke up to the news, and a lot of people had posted about Tom McQueenie. And Tom was a longtime RA member. He is sadly missed. I know a lot of people were just blown away. I think it was something that was very sudden. I don't have the details, so as you guys know, I don't like to speculate or anything like that. But I'll tell you, Mike, we saw that the scene really rally around, people that kind of knew him, people that were very close to him, his family. Everybody was sharing the Tom McQueenie RA logo. So to his Relaxed Atmosphere family and anybody that knew him, certainly may he rest in peace.
Absolutely.
Now, Don Garling Jr., he also posted, wow, what a day. I wish we had a bad dream today. My brother Dave Garling passed away in his sleep. Even though we did not see eye to eye, I still loved him. And, again, it reinforces something we always try to tell people, you just never know when your time is up. And I think about it all the time. My born day's coming up in November, and, it's so easy because we, if we're lucky, we wake up the next day and we do our thing, and, we have our battles and we have our feuds and we go to work and we hustle hard, but certainly all that can be out the window the next day if you're no longer here. So do the stuff you love, and love what you do, Mike. I don't know what else to say.
Well, if you don't do it, you never promise tomorrow, man.
Yep, you're definitely not. Not going to share anything else, really. We're going to keep this episode kind of moving along just because of sake of a few things we've got to knock out this week. But we want to thank Garage Gear Clothing for the continued support. You can go on garagegearclothing.com. They do have options for free shipping. You can visit them throughout the country, including at Mini Nats. And Mike, by the way, dude, these guys are toppling everything in sight. They got their new trailer, and they've got their old trailer up for sale. So I was going to ask, if you could buy it and park it at your house, and then, maybe I could just kind of borrow it for, maybe a couple years or something.
Well, I'll buy it as long as you get the new truck to pull it.
Okay, yeah. Because, see, what I was going to do is we'll back it right up. Because I told Shannon, if we back it by your front door, we would be fine, I think. I mean, nobody's going to say anything.
Oh, absolutely. No. They definitely won't mind.
Because we'll get it wrapped in camo. We'll have Joey or Thad from Icon Sign Designs. We'll have Thad wrap it in camo, and you'll never even see it sitting there.
Yep. You can't see me.
You can't. Yeah, dude. Remember Hair Bear got me on that. He goes, "You can't see me." I go, "What are you even talking about, dude? A wrestler? I met the wrestler, and I could see him.
You met the wrestler, yes,
dude. He was playing hide and seek But again, thank you to Garage Gear Clothing. Good people. Visit their website. Show them some love.
Well, hey Jay, one thing that I haven't heard you say anything about yet, but I just want to say congratulations and welcome back. Forbidden Fantasy is back at the Avi Casino.
Yes.
And if you've never been, that is a show that you must put on your list and get out and check out, because Brian and crew, they absolutely kill it out there. And that show is one of the top shows that you'll ever go to.
Yeah, and keep me honest, I believe with some of the renos and even maybe possibly with COVID that they had peeled away from that location, but Brian and team at Forbidden Fantasy, they've always been clear, and they said, hey, we will be back as long as all the stars align. We'll be back at Avi. And you're absolutely right. This morning, that was the first post I saw when I woke up. FF_show on Instagram. They're basically putting the line in the sand March 23rd. So it sounds like it's kind of going to be that one day. I mean, of course, it'll be an all awesome weekend. But, these guys have been doing it 30, give or take, almost 30 years, if not 30 now. And, Mike, you've been to it, and that's a great endorsement. So we wish all those guys success. And then don't forget, they've got their own podcast, too, Brian and Frank, with The Drop. So check that out. I know they recently had the guy on that owned truckrun.net. So give those guys some love. Mike, the last thing I wanted to share with you, and then we'll wrap up our segment, is Eastbound Get Down. FAQ, dude. I got, I think I'm checking the mailbox right now. I might have one, maybe two questions that have come in, like newer ones. You know what I mean? Because, Mike, sometimes I think people, they kind of want to know, the ins and outs, the inner workings, the inner sanctums. Is that how you say it? Of kind of this Eastbound Get Down, like this conglomerate that you and John, because let's be honest, I'm not involved in this. I love to see the success that you and John are doing. I'm just here to kind of help, push the show for my buddies. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, and we appreciate everything that you've been doing and helping along with us, and we look forward to seeing even more of what you put out there for us. Because I know John, you did that video of him and his Escalade, and he loves that damn video. So yeah, keep pushing it, keep putting it out there for us. We definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I think he likes the Drake song more because I'm going to pull up the gems sometimes, and that Drake verse is hot, whether you like Drake or not. I'm not a huge Drake fan, but his lyrics in that track are just like, boom, they're fire. And, because Mike, John's fire, and John's Escalade's fire, and Jimmy's Running Customs is fire. So I kind of figured... although, fire's not always good. Like in the car game, the fire emoji means you're the shit. You know what I mean?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So, Mike,
your video making is pretty damn good. So I don't know if I can go as far as saying fire, but it's pretty damn good, ODB.
I like it. So, Mike, the first question, this one I think could apply to like a lot of different people because, sometimes people are going to have like an odd make and model. So this guy had sent an email, and he said, hey, I've been looking at the website, I've been seeing the social media, everything's cool, but he wants to know, he's got a Pontiac Fiero, and he wasn't sure if it fits into the show, and he goes, I know a lot of shows sometimes have like a first, second, third classes and all that, and he didn't go as far as asking, do you have a Pontiac Fiero? Thank God he didn't ask if we have that class, or if you guys have that class, but he wanted to know, like, could he still register and kind of float into the show?
Absolutely. We will definitely take his money and we will park him way
Don't
back
say
in the back.
that, Mike. If he's listening, he's not going to want to hear that. You mean you're going to park him kind of right up front, right? Right in the pavilion?
That's exactly what I meant. Yes, that's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, he's got he sent a photo. I don't really want to share it, but it's got 5 stars. And the reason why I kind of said that too, because if you guys didn't know, the Fieros, they were known in the 80s for catching on fire. So that's why I kind of said fire's not always good, but in the car game, the fire emoji means, good. So, but hopefully he'll bring the Fiero out there. And Mike, you never know. He could place, he could get a trophy, but he'd have to be there to get it, because we learned that on the last episode. You can't just ship these things.
And there is definitely no shipping. Either you're going to there to accept your award, or you better have somebody there to get your award for you, because there is definitely no shipping of awards.
All right. Well, I think we have one more time for one more, right, Mike? I mean, because it looks like we just got another one that just kind of popped in here. I can't believe this one just came in. Someone asked if if animals, any type of animals are allowed.
Okay, all animals are allowed other than ODB. All animals are allowed.
Come on, man.
Just,
See?
just, just one. Because, dude, he is an ODB
Animal.
and Hank together are fucking animals.
Two top
So,
ropes,
but
bro.
just make sure you have your animals on leashes. Number one, and number two, you clean up after your animals.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, because you have to bring the bags and do all that, because that spreads diseases and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait till the next episode to ask about, because I might have submitted a question. They came in about some issue that I had with, last year I kind of got in trouble at Sinners and Saints, and I don't know if I'm allowed back and all that. So, but I think kind of Hank.
Wow.
I think Hank, he took the rap for that. So hopefully I can come back, because Sinners and Saints. I know the big homie up in New Jersey. They sponsored is it the Friday night deal?
Yes, the Friday night pre-party this year is sponsored by Mark with Atlantic Truck City Truck Meet.
Yeah, so that's great, because, dude, the camaraderie there, isn't that a good little space? I mean, whether you're drinking or not, dude, I didn't drink any beers last year, and I hung out down there. We had our jackets on. It was cooler out. Dude, we were big pimping in there.
Bro, we had a blast last year. And now the host hotel is sold out. That's on property. But we do have another host hotel, so no fear. We have more room there at that other hotel. But if rooms do come available, the manager will let me know, and we'll let you guys know. So don't worry. We do have rooms, and we'll get you guys a room.
I would tell people to get the tent that kind of goes over the bed of your truck and just sleep in that, but it could get chilly, Mike. So let's, we don't need no hypothermia or anything,
No, we definitely do not want that. And we don't want anybody freezing.
Yeah, and the shrinkage we learned from George Costanza. The shrinkage could kill your game if that's if you float in the town. Have a good
Good
time.
We definitely don't want you to get no don't get no shrinkage problems and killing your game. We definitely don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that.
Well, Mike, it's been awesome. I know that's a weird thing to end on, but episode 341 brought to you by our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast. I know we were a little uncanny this episode, but Mike, hopefully we'll talk to Joey and his son, and then we'll roll into the man, the myth, the legend, Doug E. Kulp. Of course, tied the lineage back to issue 1 of Mini Truckin Magazine. I think that's all I got, Mike. Stay on the rise, brother.
Hey, brother, absolutely. Thanks again for everything. And hey, Airhead Nation, get low, stay low, and make sure you guys hit up eastboundgetdownshow.com. Get pre-registered, vendors, vehicles. Let's see you guys in January.
Hey, we're super excited. Before we get to Doug Kulp, the living legend, we got another guy. I wouldn't call Joey Whitby a living legend, but Joey, I think you would call yourself a living legend, wouldn't you?
Well, I pity the fool who says I'm not.
Yeah, I was just talking to Mike earlier about you were slamming on the dashboard, and the dash is ready to come out of the truck now, I think, dude. But the trivia is always fun, isn't it, Joey?
Absolutely.
Now, I know, listen, recently, I know your son moved, and that was a big thing for you,
Yes.
but did you, are you going to surprise me? You told me you had someone else on the phone. Why don't you introduce him? Or let him introduce himself?
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yo, what up?
Yo, Tyler, the future, a true future mini trucker. And if I understand correctly, I know your dad, he's a little braggadocious. He likes to talk about his son like any proud father. But he said you've been mini trucking a long time, Tyler.
Man, I've been mini trucking since I could walk.
Dude, I like it, man. You're kind of like I tell Joey all the time, a true MC in hip-hop, that's a microphone controller. He takes over and he, boasts about himself a little bit. And Joey was like, yo, Tyler's been holding it down. Why do you like mini trucking so much, Tyler?
Well, I mean, honestly, starting out, it's pretty much all I've known as far as vehicles go. I mean, my earliest memories are riding in the extra cab of one of my dad's mini trucks, and throughout the years, it just keeps going. Mini trucking, keep on moving.
Dude, I like hearing it. Now, you've had your hand in some projects, right? And a lot of younger generation, you guys are kind of on Facebook, and you grew up in the social media era. Do you kind of find yourself, is it tough to struggle, or is it tough, I should say, to focus on one project, or what are you got going on right now? Or is that a bad question?
So for me, it's kind of hard because I jump through projects quite a bit. I mean, my first mini truck by technical standard was my '04 Tacoma, and I mean that's the truck I was learning how to drive in. My dad had it. He bagged the front of it, did some work to the back, and then I ended up taking it over, playing with it a little while, and then I ended up selling that truck, moved into a older Toyota pickup. I didn't hang on to that thing for maybe 8 months. That thing was cursed from the start, to put it lightly. And I just kept moving through trucks since then. I've kind of slowed down. I think I've had about 20 different mini trucks since I started driving, 20 to 25.
And how old are you, Tyler?
I'm 22 now.
22, bro. You've had more cars in your short adult lifehood than I've had in my entire life. I love it. I love hearing this. Now,
he gets it from his dad.
Yeah, he gets it from his dad. His dad's, I heard, Joey's over there. He's a hoarder, man. He's trying to get his roots going with all these trucks. But, Tyler, I know it's a tough subject for your pops. That you make this move, right? You recently lived in Arizona, and you moved to Tennessee. Do you at least have some homies there? Have you met up with so many truckers?
Yeah, I have. I moved out. I actually moved with my buddy, Aaron Duffy. He's a pretty good buddy of mine. And then his girlfriend, Brittany Beasley, as well.
Beasley Stripes?
Yeah. And then actually, just after Aaron moved out here, one of my homies from Sunset, California, he actually moved out to Tennessee last December. His name's Chris Vigil. So I have a few homies out here, and I've actually met quite a few other people since I've been out here. So I haven't been by myself.
I do like hearing that, and it's ironic because there's a guy, Scott, from Florida, from RA, Florida. He moved up there, and then there's the famous guy, Derek, from Vice Grip Garage. Of course, he's been in some AutoZone commercials, and now he's got a show on Motortrend. He sold some property, and he moved to Tennessee. Tennessee's kind of becoming this mecca of car enthusiasts. I think it has been a long time, but there's even more and more people. What drew you there? Was it one of the homies that's like, yo, I'm going to move to Tennessee, you should come? Or what was the real draw?
Honestly, it was more impulsive. My dad actually wanted to move. My dad actually wanted to move to Tennessee first, and I was gonna stay in Arizona, and I was gonna keep kicking it out there. And when we actually drove out to Mini Nats for my first time in Mini Nats, we came through Tennessee. We ended up stopping at my buddy Aaron's house, more West Side Tennessee. And as we're driving through, I kind of fell in love with Tennessee, and I was like, man, I'm done with Arizona. And then let's see, it was April. 2 months later, I was out of Arizona and moving to Tennessee.
Yep. Well, this would be a good time for me, Joey, to cut a promo because Mini Truckin Nats, a.k.a. Mini Nats 2024, the pre-registration is going down now, and it's a little different. It's not based upon first come, first serve. You can go to Mini Truckin Nats, and you can submit your registration. And, Joey, as you know, they do have an approval process, but it's pretty cool, and they let in over 700 vehicles. It's Mini Truckin with an IN, Nats.com, and you just go to MTN 2024 pre-reg. And Joey, it's one of your favorite shows. You've gallivanted all the way from Arizona a couple of times.
Oh, like I told you the last time, I'm going to make this a year-round thing. Vehicle or not, I'm going to Mini Nats. And this year at Mini Nats, as long as they're all approved, RA's coming in strong from the West Coast.
Yeah, I like it. I like hearing it. Now, Tyler, when you first went to Mini Nats, right? You're part of that younger generation. You go there. What stood out to you? Like, if you think back to the memory or memories that you have, what's one of your favorite memories from Mini Nats?
For Mini Nats, actually, it's kind of hard to pinpoint it because the whole time it was just an amazing time for me. I hadn't been to a show like it other than Scraping the Coast, and Scraping the Coast was the furthest east show I've been to ever. And then we go out to Mini Nats, and just the whole experience was overall probably one of the best shows I've ever been to. The whole weekend, I'm just chilling out with good homies, cruising around. Got to cruise around a Lax Taco. I'm sure a lot of people saw the video of my dad hanging out the sunroof. That was fun.
Hard taco. Yeah, we saw that.
I'm a pretty big dad.
That's good stuff. Yeah, and
So,
do you believe
yeah,
the
I mean,
cruising
the whole
aspect
weekend.
of it? Yeah, and it's totally free, all the cruising. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I when we like I got to bring my own truck, so that's actually what I'm working on right now. Is I got a 1990 Toyota Extra Cab, and we're pushing to get that thing fully operational and at least looking somewhat pretty for the show.
That's awesome. And Joey, I got to give you props for learning your son. Wink, wink. You learned him well because Mike still says like Toyota cab, or Mike says Toyota extended cab, and I go, Mike, that could get your Mini Truckin card revoked. At least Tyler knows it's an extra cab. You know what I mean, Joey?
Exactly.
Now,
exactly. Mazda Cab Plus and Toyota Extra Cab.
Yeah, we're gonna do an episode.
Truck.
We're gonna do an episode eventually on that, and we're gonna see who knows all of them. Right? We're gonna go deep into the dungeons of the extra cabs. But Tyler, a couple more minutes here. When you think about some of the trips that your dad's went on with Tom, and I'm sure Tom, and then your dad comes to the Spark Show, and you guys kind of gallivant around. Is it pretty cool knowing that your dad's been around doing this a long time? But oh, by the way, Tom's also kind of living this limelight Mini Truckin kind of life here, buying up all these trucks and pretty much going across the country. Is that pretty cool to know these guys, man?
Yeah, I mean it's pretty cool because it's interesting for shows because when I started going out east more for the shows with my dad, I'm trying to walk around with him and everybody's stopping him or he's stopping to talk to everybody, and I don't know any of these people.
You're
but
like,
then
come
they
on,
come
Dad.
up to me. But they come up to me, talking to me like they know me, which is cool, but I've never met any of them, but it's because my dad's out there running around telling people about me too. So it kind of throws me off, especially when I'm not with him, because when I'm not with him, they still come up and, it's a little awkward at first, but once they explain how they actually know me, I open up pretty quick to it. But I mean, it's moving east was probably a really good idea. It was probably one of the best decisions I've had for a while.
Gets a little hot in Arizona.
I've been enjoying it.
Now, Joey, you really love your son, man. I know you were pretty beat up about him moving, but the good thing is you've already made the trek over at least once to visit him.
Yeah, and I plan on doing it again. I'm actually looking for a house in Tennessee right now, so I may be making the move.
I think you're just jealous the East is holding it down with all these shows, dude. If you think about Mini Nats, and you think about the Spark Show and Scraping the Coast down in the South and Eastbound Get Down.
Oh.
I mean, dude, you would probably, I hate to say this, you'd have to quit your job because you'd be gallivanting more than Mike. There's 52 weeks in a year. Mike's gone about 48, 49 of those, dude. I want to see if you can maybe beat him one year.
I'm going to have to do it. I think I did it my first year of Relaxed Taco when, Scraping the Coast, Slam Fest, Battle in Bama, Mini Nats. Utah,
right.
Oregon.
You did all right.
Tom and I went all over the country, East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah, must be nice, man. Must be nice. Those are the comments you love to see, right?
Yeah, must be nice.
Tyler, look, last question for you, man. You're young, and we want to let you get back to doing what you're doing, but you're young. What do you hope to accomplish over the next, amount of time that you plan to stay in the scene? Is there any goals that you have set in your mind?
Honestly, I just want to get to all the shows that I can. I want to make my truck, I want to progress it as far as it can go to make it the best that it can be. And that's what we're pushing for right now. I want to go to all the shows that I was missing out on when my dad was going around the country because I couldn't attend with him. So being out here makes it a lot easier to go to a lot of these shows. Meeting new people is one of the huge things. I went to Camp and Drag for the first time this year as well. And, the whole weekend I was out, we were barely at our campsite and we were just meeting everybody. It's really just getting out there, meeting everybody, seeing how the scene is in different areas and seeing how everybody is and looking at a bunch of different types of trucks and seeing how everybody builds them is always pretty fun for me. Especially with me coming in, trying to build my own trucks and starting to get more into actually doing the work myself.
Well said. Tyler Whitby for president, dude. I love it, man. And that's what I would tell people. I would encourage people, if you think about Eastbound Get Down in January, Lone Star Throwdown in February, you start getting into Mini Nats, Scraping the Coast, all these amazing shows. And you're going to get hook, line, and sinker when you start going to them because you meet people, you have fun. They become, basically like family, truck show family. So, Tyler, we're going to go ahead and see if you got any last words before we let you drop, and then we'll finish up with your pops.
All right. Yeah. I mean, honestly, thank you for having me on here. It's pretty awesome. Pretty cool experience.
Yeah, stay on the rise, dude, and we want to see your continued success. We know that you're enjoying it out there, and make some inroads with some of the good kinfolk there in Tennessee.
Yeah, definitely going to keep going at it. I've been a lot of cool people out here.
Excellent. Joey, anything last for your son before he drops?
The only thing I was going to say is, Tyler is running circles around with me, building his own truck. I'm the bought, not built. He's the built, not bought era.
I like it.
So, and he's striving to be the best he can, and building a badass truck. And I can't wait to get out to Tennessee and cruise with him. I miss cruising with him because, that was our thing every weekend. And when the time is right, I'll be in Tennessee cruising right next to him in his bagged and body Toyota.
I love hearing it, dude. Salute. Tyler, keep in touch with us, and we can't wait to see some progress on the truck, man. We'll see you at Mini Nats next year, if not sooner.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to definitely see you at Mini Nats, but I'm going to try to make some other shows beforehand.
You got it, and be safe up there in Tennessee.
All right, thank you.
Joey, how cool was that? You surprising me, didn't even tell me. You go, yo, I got a special guest for you. And you knew that it was kind of aligning with when we had Jackson Rodell on recently, Rob's son. That's something that I want to kind of turn the corner a little bit, as you know, and try to make sure that we pay the right respects to these younger guys coming up. Even Jordan, you got a chance to, I think, link up with him recently. He's not as young as your son, but he's certainly younger than you and I. And that's pretty cool, right, that we can kind of engage the younger audience.
Oh, absolutely. I chopped it up with Jordan at the Cruising for Cancer show, actually. Great kid. Good head on his shoulders. And I can't wait to see him at the next show. I think he pre-reg for Mini Nats as well.
Excellent. Yeah, it's some of the buzz. It's really cool to hear some of the buzz that I know you've heard some of it as well with some of the West Coast kinfolk that's planning to make that cross-country trip. I mean, the commitment, as you know, that it takes, right? The time off work, the fuel, all that stuff. But how fun it is, kind of floating in the town Thursday, having all of Thursday to kind of kick back, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Dude, it's truly what Jay Bell and those guys have done. His team is extraordinary to bring people all throughout the country. In my opinion, we haven't really seen that since Greenville. And you went to Greenville back in the day.
Yes, I did. I think it was, Tyler was born in 01, 02, 03, 04. Was it 05?
Yeah, it was something. I always get the years mixed up. It was like 03, 04, something like that, or 04, 05.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I'd have to look because I think I still have some pictures from there, but that was a great experience.
It definitely was. And what IF Customs was doing back then, bringing people together, uniting people, getting people to do this cruise. I know you've kind of made your efforts to do that. It is a huge commitment. I think it's tough for people to take, especially as we get a little older. It's either you're really in this or, you just can't do it, right? And there's going to be special occasions kind of come up, and I think that's what's going to happen next year, because with the 30th and with the buzz that people see with all of these reels, I know we're, constantly sharing them for Mini Nats. What that reinforces is that, hey, it is the Mecca, maybe the best mini truck show in the world, possibly. You could slice and dice that with Japan. I'd put it hands down best mini truck show in the Americas, dude. That's counting South America and, Alaska and whatever, Antarctica and all that or something.
Oh, yeah,
it's counting the Bermuda Triangle.
Japan has their mix and we have ours, so Mini Nats is definitely the best mini truck show on this Arctic thing that we call America.
How do you call it? What's called
South America or North America.
What's that round thing we live on? It's called a Super Ball or something like that. I forget. But when you go to
I thought the Earth was flat.
Yeah, something like that. Those crazy people. When you go to Mini Truckin with an IN Nats, Mini Truckin Nats, and you click on MTN 2024, which stands for, of course, Mini Truckin Nats, that basically takes you over. They're using the Google Forms, Google Docs, and if you're signed into Google, it automatically enters in your email. If you've got multiple Google accounts, you have to click Switch Account, and then just select whatever one that you're registering, right, that primary email address you're going to use. but you fill in some basic information, and you have to provide a link or upload a photo or photos, and that way that's part of that approval process, right? Joey, if you think about it, and it's very, very easy to do. You can even do it on your phone.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, speaking of shows, if you don't mind, did you hear that Forbidden Fantasy is back at the Avi?
We heard, and we're hoping you were going to bring that up because I was going to. Mike brought it up earlier, and Brian and team, right? They have been promising, hey, we're going to get back to the Avi. You had people kind of going, this other place isn't bad, but man, we really had a blast. And he goes, yo, don't worry. So Brian and the cast of characters there in Forbidden Fantasy, they're making it happen. And to your point, they're back at the AVI, the Avi.
Absolutely, and that was their best spot. Forbidden, actually, when I remember Forbidden when it was over at Lake Paris, it was huge.
Back in the day.
And then he moved it over to Laughlin at the Abbey, and it's still pretty big. And they have, grass parking. It's right there on the water. And this year, I got it just in time. I booked a room at the Abbey before it was sold out. I did it just in time.
Yeah, well, if Hank comes into town, he might have to sleep on, like air mattress or something.
Right? Every time that I've gone to Forbidden at the Abbey, I think I went twice. Because after that, it was gone. I had to stay in, Laughlin, down in the strip. And, it's not like you can just hop, skip, and jump when you're at the Abbey. It's a little bit of a drive from the strip to the Abbey.
No doubt. It's going to be fun. People can look up FFF_show on Instagram for more information. Certainly big shout out. Joey, we're getting ready to roll in. I know a lot of folks are waiting patiently for Doug Kulp. Doug shot the first Mini Truckin cover. Oh, by the way, he also shot the cover of issue number 2. He shot other covers, other publications as well. His roots, I'm just going to give you this one little hint, they predate Mini Truckin Magazine, and not everyone knows there was a magazine that came out in 1980 that was called Mini Truck. It was Mini-Truck.
Yep.
You've seen it before, and his roots, literally, people are going to learn this about him here in just a minute, they go all the way back to the good old days, dude, over 40 years ago, and that's awesome to me.
Man, that's a long time. That was before me, actually, so...
Yeah, I was going to say, and the only thing that's standing in people's way of hearing that right now is Joey Whitby. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
What do you got to say? We out ya?
No. I pity the fool.
Yeah, brother. Let's roll into it. Let's keep in touch. And, dude, shout out to Tyler. He's a good kid. He's up and coming. He's doing the damn thing, and I love hearing it. We got to link him up with Jackson and some of these other younger kinfolk. So they can do the damn thing and fix to learn us what the next generation's going to do.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've watched Tyler build his truck. I helped him in the garage, and he's to be honest with you, Tyler picked up a welder at 7 years old, dude, and he was laying beads better than I could at 7. And I knew he was going to be a welder of some sorts. And he's killing it. I mean, he's living his dream, doing what he wants to do. So, and that's awesome. I'm proud of him.
No doubt, man. Well, listen, stay on the rise, and we'll talk to you soon, homie. Let's roll into
Absolutely.
Doug Kulp, the first cover Mini Truckin Magazine. He shot it. More to come. Thank you guys for all the support. Make sure you subscribe and or click follow for our lifestyle podcast. Stay on the rise, everyone. Hey, so excited to sit down with Doug Kulp. And, we said earlier, I know you won't want me to say this, kind of a living legend in our minds. But, Doug, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, living legend, I really wouldn't go that far, but that's okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
We love having you. For those that don't know, we're going to talk about some of the lineage that goes back to the 80s, especially the first issue of Mini Truckin. But I wanted to kind of just start where I always start. Do you mind giving a little bit of background about yourself, Doug?
Well, sure. It's a long and storied story, but I can do that. originally I was born in Connecticut and moved to Florida, and in Florida, I went to high school with some guys that were kind of into cars, but I really didn't know that much about the cars. And something that intrigued me was a Toyota pickup truck that I thought was really kind of neat, and I didn't know about the culture of mini trucks at all at that time. So I still had the truck when I went to college, and I actually found a copy on the grocery store shelves in the town where I was going to college that was called Mini Truck Magazine.
Wow. Yep.
Not Mini Truck In. And it kind of intrigued me. And I thought, that's kind of cool. So, I had no inclination towards being a photographer or a writer for it at the time. I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing that was going on with these guys in their trucks. And so after college, I came back and I started working in a photo lab. And one of the guys that worked in the photo lab with me was a guy that kind of got into a similar field of doing photography for a magazine, but he was a pro wrestling advocate, and he loved going to at the time it was like Andre the Giant and, Hulk Hogan and things like that. So he would do photography for, I think it was called Pro Wrestling Illustrated. And I was intrigued by that. I was saying, that's kind of cool. So a few months later, after reading through Mini Truck, I kind of got this urge in my head to say, hey, how come, and I wrote a letter to the editors and said, how come I never see any trucks from Florida in your publication? And they didn't answer me directly. They answered me through the magazine in their readers' letters kind of thing, where they would go in and, take a letter that somebody wrote. And, back then there was no texting. There was no email.
Sure. Yep.
None of that. It was all paper and pen, and that's how I did it. I wrote a letter on a piece of paper and mailed it to the magazine. And it's funny because I was looking through the magazine and I saw my letter with a response. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. And basically they said, hey, the reason you don't see any trucks from Florida, which is where I lived at the time, and the reason you don't see them is we don't get down there very much. We haven't been down that way. And so they basically went on to say, if you see some really cool trucks down there, we'd be interested in seeing them. So take some pictures and send them to us.
And this was the Mini Dash Truck magazine, or was this
right? Mini Truck.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that was originally published by a company in Costa Mesa, California called Wright Publishing. And they had two magazines at the time. They had Mini Truck and they had Hot VWs.
Yep. And I think they had dune buggies too.
Well, that's what it was. It was Hot VWs and dune buggies.
Oh, got it.
Right.
Oh, God. Right. Dune buggies and hot. You're right. Yep.
Right. And they were doing all of that. And back then it was a guy named Chuck Coyne and R.K. Smith was doing stuff like that.
And Jack Rees or Rise, something like that.
Right. Jim Hart, I believe so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a plethora of guys that, were down in that area that were doing stuff. And so out of nowhere, though, I think a year went by and the Mini Truck magazine went under. They basically sent out a letter saying, that was our last issue. We're sorry, but, here's a refund of your subscription. And we hope to be able to bring it back out at a later date. And that was it. And it was basically done.
Yeah, 49 issues, November 1980 through like December 84, that time period.
Right. And it was very strange because I was like, oh, well, great. Okay, well, that was fun. I had actually sent them 2 or 3 features before that.
Wow.
One was a Chevy Love truck called Night Moves. Then there was a classic Nissan, or not, it wasn't a Nissan at the time, it was a Datsun.
Yep.
And it was it was a beautiful truck that this guy, and I had met him at a World of Wheels show in Miami. And I said to him, I said, hey, I'm trying to do these things for Mini Truckin Magazine. Would you be interested in stopping by my place on the way out of town so we could do some photos? He was more than happy. He was like, oh, yeah, that's fantastic. I'd love that. So he stopped by, and we did a photo shoot, and I sent it out to the magazine, and they printed it as their center spread for that particular issue. And it was called Misty Magic, and it was a Pro Street early 50s model Datsun. And at the time, that was very unheard of. Mm-hmm. Nobody did anything like that. It had a Chevy 350 in the front end of it. Nobody did stuff like that to old Datsuns. It was very unusual for that to happen.
Oh, yeah.
So, and then I think I'd done one other story on a truck that was from Miami, and I believe it was a Chevy Love also. And that was it. I'd done like 3 stories for them. And then out of nowhere, like I said, they closed up shop. So the funny thing is about a month after that, I get a hand-typed letter from Steve Stillwell.
Wow.
Who at the time was, running and being the editor for Truckin Magazine, which I had known about. I'd known about the magazine for, many years, but, I never thought, oh, man, I'm never going to do anything for trucking. I don't know. That's...
Right, that's a national publication. They've been around since 1975.
Right, and I just thought, oh, no, that was never... And they were mostly vans at the time. Mm-hmm. And so after getting that letter from Steve, I was like, oh, this is great, because that broadens the amount of vehicles I can do as stories for them. Not just mini trucks, but now I can do vans. Now I can do full-size Chevys, full-size Fords, could do classics, unusually built classics, things like that. So I thought this was great. And he asked me straight out, hey, he says, do you have anything in your files? And I go, actually, no, I sent everything I had to Mini Truck. And I said, they published all of it. He says, well, why don't you see what you can find down there that'll fit ours? And my immediate thought was to go to van shows, or van-ins, as they called them. And, back in the day, vans were all about camping. So they had vans that were they were like luxury hotels on the inside.
Right, exactly.
And so I ended up finding a couple of van camping events, and there was a few nice vans at them, nothing that I thought was super fantastic, but I did their events, and Steve published both of them. I was like, oh, okay, great. So I started talking to the van guys and saying, hey, can I do a couple of feature stories on the vans? They were like, yeah, absolutely. So I did probably about 6 months worth of vans.
Wow.
And Steve comes back and goes, we're going to get away from vans now. We're going to start going towards pickup trucks. And I was like, really? Okay. I said, what about the ones that I sent you? Oh, we'll weed all those through, and eventually just concentrate on the trucks, pickups and mini trucks, and even 4-wheel drives, things like that. So I said, okay, that's fine. So I head back to the car shows, and I start looking for those kind of vehicles. And I started finding quite a few. So everyone I saw, I would just pull them aside and say, yeah, I'm doing stuff for Truckin Magazine. And of course they're ecstatic, because like Truckin Magazine.
Yeah, California.
Yeah. You want me to be in your magazine? And I go, well, not you, but your truck. And,
right.
And I said, in extension, you, but, first of all, your truck. So I pulled like 5 or 6 pickups out of different shows from Miami to Atlanta, and photographed them, and then did probably, like I said, 5 or 6 of them. And they eventually got published one at a time as time went on, because at the time, Steve was all about getting East Coast stuff. Mm-hmm. So he did not hesitate putting something that might not have been as beautiful as something out in California, but was still, for the East Coast, was still very unusual.
Oh, yeah. Now,
so
I want to ask you this before we get too far. So we're talking with Doug Kulp, obviously got inroads back to the publication days in the 80s, but my understanding was your father, he worked for a company that was he the one that worked at the company with the plane engines and things like that?
Right. Pratt & Whitney Aircraft was a aircraft engine company. They still are today, but they've moved into stuff like rocket engines and helicopter engines, all kinds of fun stuff. And it's kind of funny because if he hadn't moved me to Florida with the family, I probably never would have gotten into this at all. So yeah, he just the move from Connecticut to Florida was crazy.
Was big. Yeah. Now let me ask you this: like, so your father is in that sector. You're going. I think you had told me before, like, going to like camping events. They were big into that. That's it's big everywhere, but I think it's bigger in the north too, where it's a little cooler. Did like any of that stuff? Like, were you ever at stuff and you go, oh wow, like I like these trucks, or look at was there any kind of automotive connection you had kind of before than what you said? What really pulled you in with moving down to Florida?
No, my dad was not much into cars at all. He was absolutely a aircraft engineer.
Got it.
So he was not in any way that way, far as mechanics was concerned. He did have some favorite cars back in the day, but he never had any inkling towards working on them.
Yeah, he had a really good education. I think University Alabama.
Yeah, he had a mechanical engineering degree from U of A, and that's when he got his first job in the aircraft industry was through Pratt & Whitney, and then in Connecticut they were doing R&D in Florida, but the Hartford, Connecticut plant was mostly manufacturing. So since he was a designer, they moved him to Florida, and he was more than happy to get out of Connecticut.
Get me out of that snow.
The snow was not his friend. Let's just put that.
It's not my friend either. No, that's great.
Exactly.
So rest in peace to your pops. Yeah, I'd imagine you had told me that he had passed on, and rest in peace to your family, your mom as well.
Yeah, I'm the only one left of the Kulp family. Well, other than cousins that I don't even know where they are anymore.
Yeah,
but
for
sure.
That's it. Now, if we fast forward back to kind of the era that we're talking in, you're going to these van shows, and obviously that you start to see the transition. The trucks become even hotter than they were. The vans are kind of getting phased out and whatnot. But my question to you is, is Steve going, hey, what about these minis? Or do you catch wind that, hey, by the way, we're going to, we're talking 88, probably that early 88, they go, these little mini trucks are getting kind of hot. We're going to branch off and do a special, summer issue. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I have a feeling that he had that in mind when he started talking to me. He knew I was doing stuff for Mini Truckin Magazine originally.
Right.
And when they offered to have me, they flew me out to California and interviewed me about taking a position as a feature editor.
Wow.
In California. And that was a big deal for me because I was literally still in college. And I was working towards trying to finish my degree. But their offer for a guy like me at that time in my life and in general was just like too good to be true. So I kind of sat and said, well, should I? And then I went back and forth, and they said, well, we want you to come out. We will pay your way to get out here. We will give you this much salary, this, that, and the other thing. And I said, okay, I guess I'll give it a whirl. Give it a shot.
Wow, so you did accept that. I mean, I knew you worked there, but I wasn't sure where this was going, so that's great.
Yeah, no, they had brought me out. And actually, Larry Saavedra was the guy that kind of helped me decide that, because he and Dan Ledbetter, who is he's from VW Trends fame, they were doing it. They had actually flown to Florida to cover a Volkswagen show in Orlando. And I didn't know Dan at all, really, but I'd spoken on and off to Larry here and there. And Larry says, they're looking for somebody to do a feature editor if you're interested. And he kept saying stuff like, oh, it's so fun. You get to fly all over the country.
Right. Yeah.
This, that. And I was like, okay. All right. Well, and then shortly after, that's when Steve said, you want to fly out? And I said, okay, let's do it. So I flew out there. I actually got wined and dined by the the editor at the time was Ken Yee, and he was the overall editorial director of every magazine they had, and McMullen had quite a few. Besides Truckin', they had Street Rodder, they had VW Trends, they had All Chevy, they had a book called Popular Cars. I'm trying to think. They even did one called Auto Sound and Security at one point.
Oh yeah.
They did one called Splash, which was for the jet ski crowd. Let's see who else was there. There was a whole bunch of different magazines, and I can't even remember all of them because some of them came and went.
Yep.
They didn't stick around. They just didn't fly. But Truckin' and Street Rodder were the two biggest ones in the company. And after going out there and working on staff for a while, I really did not have a good time with California. Just to say, coming from Florida, crystal blue waters, gorgeous blue skies, clean air. It was similar, but a whole different lifestyle.
Wow.
So I was not feeling the greatest about it, but they were getting ready to do the Mini Truckin Magazine. And because I had that background with Mini Truck, Steve kind of said, see what you can do, go through our files, see what you can find. So we had a big, massive file cabinet full of old features that never got published. So if you look through Mini Truckin, you'll see a few of those in there. Those are the ones that are generally in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go through there's probably three or four that I literally had to go back in there, find the photos, and look at their tech sheets. And that we would send out tech sheets to everybody that had photos shot. And the tech sheets were describe who you are, describe how you got into the Mini Truckin or Truckin, describe your truck in detail. I mean, there was some serious detail that you wanted.
Right.
When it came to the technical specs of a vehicle. It was deep. And a lot of people just left that blank.
Yep.
So I had to come back in and figure out how to write a story based on the limited amount of information that were given us. And, I was not good at that. That was not my forte. But Steve says, give it a shot, bring it into me. We'll look it over and see what, we can do to tweak it. And I learned a lot from him doing that with me. And I thought that was, pretty cool to have Steve Stillwell telling me how to write a story. So I went through, we picked out, several features that were from older, they might have been sitting in the files for 5 or 6 years. That's how far back we were digging. And so they were past their prime basically, but we needed to throw this magazine together. And other than running out and trying to find a bunch of vehicles, we were doing a lot of things to fill pages. And if you look through there, even Michelle did a story about the club, Mini Truck clubs. And Michelle was our editorial assistant. And she didn't really write, but she was good at organizing. So she would go through all our archives and look for photos of Mini Truck clubs, and then take it and put a montage together. So that was pretty cool that she got to do that. And then there was several things in there that Larry was all about the truck racing. He loved the sport truck racing. So there's that story in there about that, about doing the Mini Truck racing. And he would go out to these tracks in different parts of California and do photography of them racing, and then write up a story about it. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, it is pretty neat. And when we talk about the first issue, I've always wondered this. When we look at the table of contents, because I had this issue out the other day, and it was a unique issue because you didn't have the main center spread with the feature cover vehicle. You kind of had these 4 vehicles or so. Now,
Right.
when we talked at the Spark Show, when we think about the inside, the table of contents where it has the little square and it talks about you and Larry, did Larry like shoot the Blazer, or did he help you shoot the Nissan?
No, the racing photos were all his, and
Okay.
I shot the Blazer. The Blazer was one that I had just recently shot
I see.
and pulled it out, and I said, "Yeah, we should throw that in there." And then the story about the Nissan was that I had made friends with Roger Plant, who was the owner of Concepts, as you know, he was a small body work shop. You know, he did anything that anybody asked, basically. He was in Buena Park, and he was good friends with the guy that owned Stull Industries.
Mm-hmm.
And Stull Industries was a big advertiser with Truckin and Mini Truckin. And they heard that we were going to do this issue, this special. They said, "Hey, we're building this Nissan. You know, we'd like to, can we somehow get it in there?" And Steve and him worked on the deal. And he says, "Yeah, well, why don't we have it painted up?" And the first thing the guy from Stull says is, "Oh yeah, my body guy." And he says, "Roger Plant." And I go, "Oh, Roger's a friend of mine. Yeah, no big deal. Yeah, he'd be great." And so the two of them show up with the truck, and it was just a plain red Nissan hardbody with no wheels, no fancy anything on it at all. And Steven looks at him and goes, "Hey, we're trying to go to print on this in a month. Get it done by then." And he's like, "Sure, whatever you want." So he goes to Roger. He says, "This is what I want. Here's all the parts. Put it together." Literally, he was still putting it together that day in the parking lot.
That's awesome.
And so his building was a flat-roofed warehouse, and he had a fairly good-sized parking lot out front with no lines on it or anything, but it was kind of an old beat-up parking lot. So Larry and I, and Steve, we kind of said, "What do we want to do with this?" And he said, "Well, the best part of this truck is all the graphics on it.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we shoot it from looking down?" And I said, "Well, the truck's already over at the Concepts building, so let's just go get a ladder and climb on the roof."
There you go.
And so it was Larry's camera, but between he and I, we were directing the model and the position of the truck and that kind of stuff. We were kind of like, this is where we think it should be. And then when we gave that particular chrome, which back in the day we used Fuji chrome and Kodachrome film, so we just called them chromes. So we would tell the art director for Mini Truckin, who was the same as Truckin, says, "Yeah, here, this is what we want to use for the cover." Well, the first thing he did was look at it and say, "Oh, that driveway looks terrible." And we were like, "Yeah, but what are you going to do? Have the guy repaint it just for our shoot?" And
Right.
he says, "Why not?" And so next thing you know, he says, "I can fix it." So he basically blacked out everything other than the truck and the girl. And if you look really close on the copy, you can see the shadow on the ground under the truck is a slightly different black.
Yeah, I see that now. Yeah, I never noticed. I guess I never noticed that. Yeah, and what's neat though, I would think that Steve and some of these guys, and we had Alan Paradise on in the past. I know he was kind of in that inner circle to a certain extent, and you could maybe shed light on that. But the cool thing is like that front, that 3/4 shot from above. Now you just use a drone or whatever, but it kind of was very unique, and I would imagine that as many copies as they printed, for $3, I know $3 is not what it was, now. I would imagine it really caught people's eye.
Yeah, I think so. And the fact that the graphics on the truck were kind of bold and, they're not what they are today, obviously, but nobody was really doing anything that crazy other than the neon Nissan, which I don't know if you've ever seen. That was a truck that was shot. Larry and I shot that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be posting some more footage of that soon.
Yeah, that was a truck that we discovered at a show, and he had done like a neon look to his graphics. And I think that might have been one of the starts of, the wild graphics that you see today. Was that truck, and it was iconic at the time. So I don't remember seeing anybody do graphics like the one on this Nissan on the cover, except for that one truck. Most people were doing just pearls or candies and minimal graphics. But there were some very unusual graphics. In fact, if you ever get a chance to look back on Mini Truck, there is a couple of vehicles in there that have some very unique graphic paint jobs on them. But nothing like today's stuff,
Yeah, I got to get my collection going on those. I know a couple. I think my buddy Radar from West Coast Influence, I think he's got the whole set. Again, there's about 49 of those. But what was unique though is when I first started going through every issue on YouTube, my database wasn't as vast then, but now I've went back and I'm slicing and dicing it more. I haven't went and I haven't listed. I have like every feature, but I wasn't writing down in the database who shot every feature, so I can't rattle those off the top of my head yet. But what was interesting to me is you have issue 1, famous first issue, but issue 2, what I call Ain't No Joke, because it had the Ain't No Joke with a kind of young, like a Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell type kid on the cover.
Oh yeah,
that was a cool one. And so like your name is tied to the first issue and then Winter '89. That's awesome.
Yeah. I literally, like I said previously, I was not in love with California.
Right.
So it was not long after that I decided I wanted to go back to Florida.
Yep.
So I think in '89, maybe March or April of '89 is when I hit the road.
Yep. Now, how did they react to that? Were they like, or were they understanding?
They knew I was unhappy. They knew that, I was having issues with being out there with no family. And, at my age, it was tough.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody, and, it was hard. I mean, I had a few friends from Florida fly out and, spend a week there once. And we had fun when they did that. We hit all the movie studios and the Disney and the Knott's Berry Farm and all those local attractions. But once they were gone, I was back to by myself.
Yeah,
and,
yeah. It's kind of hard if you're a transplant, especially in those years of your life, and if you weren't like, hey, let's go party down, Sunset Strip and get crazy and all that. I mean, you were kind of like a fish out of water. It sounded like.
Exactly. And the smog was really getting to me. I mean, I didn't have asthma, but I could really feel it in my lungs. The smog in LA was brutal. And it was very dry out there. So, you dried out, in that weather, you dried out unless you were born into it and were used to it. You kind of turned into an alligator.
Oh yeah.
Your skin was all crinkled up. I literally was putting lotion on my hands every like 3-4 times a day because my hands were so dried out.
Yeah. From northeast to the south to the west. I mean, that was a lot of moving and in those different climates and stuff. Now, I want to talk about a little bit early in the '90s, but before that, when you think about. I know our friend Ed Eister, he's just a great guy, great supporter of us. He had some good things to say about you, and I'll bring that up in a few minutes. But he pointed out to me before, like DEK, right, was Doug Kulp. There's probably things that you did in the magazine that people didn't realize that you could only do maybe on paper so much per issue?
Yeah, exactly. One of the unknown policies that McMullen had, and it was the company wide, wasn't just trucking or mini trucking, was they did not want you to do more than 3 bylines with your actual name. So in mini trucking was difficult because I had so much in that issue that I could only do so many of my own name in it. As far as the byline. Now, the photo credits were another thing. photo credits could be me all day long, but the byline, which is, the part that says, this article by, Doug Kulp, that was the limitation. I could only have that on 3 different articles. So if you look through the magazine, you'll see like different stories that have my photo credits on them, but they will have a different byline. And that was true with everybody. Steve, Larry, even Michelle. Michelle didn't write much, but she did have to have a pseudonym for her name so that, she could stay within the rules. But if you look through the magazine, I had, let me see, I'm just glancing through here. Yeah, I'm glancing through, and I remember having names, and I would do a version of my name where I did, instead of Douglas E. Kulp, I would do Edward Douglas.
Ah.
And then I also did, what was the other one I did? Well, I did my dad's name, but I couldn't use his last name. I couldn't use the Kulp part of it, so I called him Bob K.
Interesting.
And then Steve Stillwell, he had Carrie Stevens.
Yeah, someone had shared, I think it might have been Alan Paradise that chimed in one time and said that.
Yeah. One of his side names was Carrie Stevens. And then there was another one. Let me see. It's funny. There was one in here that was kind of funny. Let's see if I can dig it up real quick while I'm looking through here.
And while you're looking at that, remember, rest in peace, Courtney Hollowell. Years later, around that time he came on board, but then remember he started using Wyatt Strange.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is when Steve approached us all and said, "Yeah, you got to come up with other names," I started trying to keep it as like have a little clue that it was me, but it wasn't me.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, like Douglas Edwards or the Edward Douglas, because if you knew me, then my middle name is Edward, and you'd say, "Oh, hey, that's him." Yeah, and then but no, and Steve's middle name was Carrie.
Got it.
Steve Stillwell, so he would do Carrie Stevens.
Yeah, and even him, as high up as he was, everybody kind of went with a pseudonym name, I think is what you call it.
Yeah, a pseudonym, right? Yeah, and that's what he did. Was his. He actually had another one that I thought was funny, and I wish I could remember what it was. But we also had a few freelance guys that would do work for us and several other, the McMullen line. Bob McClurg, and Bob, the closest thing to a center spread in the first issue was the one that Bob did, was Mission Accomplished.
Yes.
Which was a beautiful truck. And that was actually one of Bob's submissions that he put in probably 6 months before, not knowing that we were doing a Mini Truckin Magazine.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Bob was really good. He was a good photographer. He was very funny. I enjoyed, his company when we did talk. Yeah, when you look through the magazine, there's a story about Euro Ranger.
Yep.
And that I put Bob K on because that was my dad. Oh, Larry's, he had one called Stephen Romero or Stephen Romero. That was Larry.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting.
So, and if you keep looking through, you see, man, Mini Truckin's got all these people working for them. It's like, how can they have so many people?
That's what we used to think. We're like, man, they got a huge budget.
Yeah. And then, the Slammerized, which was the little samurai.
Yes,
Gumby.
I'm looking at that now, and now I was going to ask you about that.
That's Robert Stewart is my father's first and middle name.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So look up the top. It's got my name as the photographer.
Yep, at the bottom. Now I posted this the other day because it's funny. That samurai really captures the '80s, like the color. Yeah. I mean the wheel offsets back. It just has everything. And I posted it as a reel on Instagram, and I got like 18,000 views. I mean, it was like a 5-second reel, put some good 80s music to it. And someone chimed in, of course, I mentioned it was Robert Vargas of Escondido, California. And someone had chimed in. They go, man, I remember seeing that. They're like, I think it got stolen, and that's why nobody ever saw it again. Wow, you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, when that happened, a month after it happened or something, Steve or Brian or somebody had this idea of putting that photo on a milk carton with a "Have you seen this truck?"
Wow.
And there was, I don't remember who did it, if it was our in-house staff or who it was exactly, but they have a picture. They have a story with that, telling the story about how it was stolen. And I thought it was kind of funny that they put it on a milk carton.
Yeah,
and I think it was an issue of Mini Truckin that they did that.
Yeah, I think I do remember that. And for the kids that are younger, that was like a thing in the 70s and 80s, and probably even in the early 90s, where it's like if there was a missing kid, so you'll sometimes see that in different comedy skits, or someone on a milk carton.
That's not an Amber Alert, but that's what they would do.
We put
on a milk.
Yeah, we put my co-host Mike on a milk carton before, to make a fun joke,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a neat thing about, and I always give credit back to the publications, because if you think about, we were very fortunate to have, in this hobby, to have a magazine like Truckin' was this overarching conglomerate, and then they spin off and go, oh, okay, Mini Truckin'. Oh, by the way, Sport Truck, people forget, that's also 88, right, around that same time. So,
but they were Peterson Publishing, right?
Oh, that's right, in the very beginning, right? Then eventually they were acquired, I think.
Yeah, I think Hoyt Vandenberg went over to them. I think he was working with Truckin', and then they hired him out of Truckin's staff and said, hey, we want a guy from Truckin' to do our new book, and he went over there. I think that's
it was something like that. And we're very fortunate because we can look back, like we're doing now, we can say, oh yeah, this truck, and with social media, somebody can go, oh yeah, I remember seeing it. That thing got stolen. Now I'm talking to you. You shot it. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. It's like, dude, 35 years ago. It's like that's the cool thing about our memories, man.
Yeah. And well, that exact truck was funny because I saw him at a show in San Diego, and I think it's funny because I think Steve even told me maybe a couple of weeks or a month before that they wanted to get away from the usual Toyota, Nissan, Chevy Love, Mazda. So yeah, that's when I said, hey, what about this one? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I did a couple of shots, and the model was a friend of mine who I had used on a couple of other events as well. And
Dawn Morgan.
Dawn. We were at a show, and I pulled the guy aside and said, hey, can we do this quick little thing? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So I thought that worked out well.
Yeah, that was cool.
It is funny too. And, speaking of things that happen in a very short amount of time and ideas that come to mind while you're out on the road, there is a story in this issue called Wild Window Art.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting at a show and I noticed that all these guys had, their club logos painted or etched or who knows what on the back of it. So I ran around the show and got as many shots of the back of these trucks as I could. And I said, this will be worth a page.
Right.
So I brought that back and showed it to Steve, and he says, oh yeah, that'd be great. And he actually, it says the Mini Truckin staff, but I think I did that. I can't remember.
Right. Yeah, because like you said, it's like with some of those things, that's how the idea comes about. And then if he just gives you the thumbs up, you run with it. Because I know over the years they started, you probably were that was the first one because they started doing like Kaleidoscope. They do graphic ones or tailgates with the license plates and all that.
Yeah,
it kind of started that trend.
Well, I was at a show in Bakersfield too, where another trend started. It started as just a window art thing. But there was a company in Phoenix or Yuma or something like that in Arizona that did neon signs. And they figured out how to put a 12-volt transformer into a truck. And they were bending neon to fit inside the back window of trucks.
Yes.
And the first time I ever saw that was at this show in Bakersfield, or excuse me, Victorville. And I did a feature on the truck as well, but and then the neon after that. And next thing you know, just out of that one little idea, this guy in Arizona turned it into a business and was selling pre-made neon
logos.
Signs were custom to put. You could just plop them in your truck, and they would have anything from, palm trees to dolphins jumping or whatever. They would have it all pre-made that somebody could just buy and put in their truck.
Yeah, that's
just
interesting. And now we're seeing guys do it whenever guys in the truck scene's doing them with truck logos because, now the technology is like with LEDs and all that stuff. But you still have those vibrant kind of 80s, I call it Miami Vice style colors that are so popular. I mean, they're just ultra popular now. So it is crazy.
As an offshoot to that, when I went back to Miami, Steve was begging me to do some shoots. When I went back to Florida, he's like, I need stuff from Florida. You got to come, you got to start doing it again. Because for a while, I was kind of like, I just wanted to get away from it. But the weird thing is he kept calling me, and all these other people that knew me were like, yeah, we got an event, we got a show, can you do coverage? And I sort of hemmed and hawed about it, but I went ahead and did it. But at a show in Miami, I saw a guy who had done and it was the coolest Mazda truck. It still had the rotary engine in it. And he had done neon in the bed in the shape of a skeleton. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I said, who did that? And he says, well, there's a company in Miami that does neon signs. And I went and contacted them, and they said, well, yeah, it's a funny thing you called because we're actually putting together a line of neon to put under your vehicle. Wow. And they were doing it for everybody, not just mini trucks. So I told Steve about it. He says, oh, yeah, well, see what you can do. Can you do a night shoot? Can you do a shoot where you see the tenant? And I found out there was a sub shop called Miami Subs.
Mm-hmm.
They had the quintessential pink and blue
lighting
all over their store. So I said, hey, can I use your store as a backdrop one night? And then I gathered up like 3 or 4 trucks and did a photo shoot with the neon under it. And then that becomes the craze. So the influence of the magazines on the culture is undeniable.
Yes.
But it's just so bizarre to think back as to how these things started.
Oh yeah, and if you think about too, like we're kind of in that same era, January '91. So you would have shot this, 3 to 6 months prior. You shoot the S10, the purple, and with the gal on the beach. Do you remember that one? It was the purple S10.
You're talking about Swamp Hopper.
Yes, Swamp Hopper.
Yes, that was a guy, and there's a cool story that goes along with that. There was a guy I knew through connections and through just doing things around Florida that owned a store called the Bug Hut, and he was all about Volkswagens. But he decided to put a mini truck show together at one of the water parks in Orlando.
Oh, right, Watermania.
Right, Watermania, exactly. And he had me come up to several shows, and I did coverage of those shows several times. And one year he comes to me and he says, hey, I built this lowrider S10 that I want you to look at. And I said, okay. So he didn't tell me this, but the guy from Sport Truck Magazine was in town, and he talked the guy into letting him shoot the truck for a feature in Sport Truck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy, I wish I could remember his name, but he goes, hey, you want to go? I'm supposed to meet this guy to do a photo shoot on my truck. And I said, you what? And I said, what are you doing to me? He says, we don't have to tell him that you're, who you are. We could just, you could just be a fly on the wall. And I went, I'm like, okay, all right. So we leave the show, go to his house, and the sport truck photographer is there taking pictures of this S10. But it's in front of the guy's house. It's not, it's not it doesn't have a model. It's just, a generic shoot. So I looked at the guy, the Bug Hut owner, and I said, all right, now you've done it. He goes, what do you mean? I said, now I have to shoot the truck, and I have to do it in a better location, and I have to do it with a model. And he says, done. I've got it all lined up. And I was like, huh? He says, we can go to this place. It's a lake with a white sandy beach. And the owner of the property said, we can come on and shoot anytime we want to.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And I said, and then I go, what about the model? And he says, well, I happen to have a girl that does stuff for the Bug Hut, for our catalogs. And I said, well, who is she? And he says, oh, this is, I can't remember her name either, but there's so many names.
Sure.
But she was like, oh yeah, I'll come out. It was like Sunday after his show. And he put me up in a hotel just so that we can stay and do it for the next day. And we set it up, put it on the beach. She got in there. I did the whole photo shoot. And then I put the package together the next day and sent it to Steve. And I said, Steve, this truck just got shot by Sport Truck Magazine the day before I did it. Anyway, you can. And I go, any way you can get it in Mini Truckin. And he calls back and he says, we're putting it on the cover in the next issue. I pulled the one that was on it.
Oh, awesome.
So he had an issue ready to go to print. And then he says, hold the presses. We're putting this one on the cover. And boom. And I don't know what the reaction at Sport Truck was, but they probably were like, holy moly, how'd they do that?
Oh, yeah.
Because the Sport Truck guy knew that he had just finished the truck too. So I was just like, okay, this is cool. When we get to scoop the competition like that.
Oh yeah. Now so then just so for everyone that knows, that was the third credited cover that you had, and then January again, but 4 years later, we have a connection to this guy. We call him the real Matt Smith. His name's Matt Smith. You shoot the Isuzu and Scott. I think you pronounce his last name Scott Lapham. Yeah. Figment. So you shoot that, and here's the crazy thing. I'll tell you this real quick. So the guy sitting in the cover with the Florida State hat, that's our friend Matt Smith. We call him the real Matt Smith. Now he recently, I don't know how many people know this, he recently acquired that purple Isuzu because Scott had it forever. Scott finally let it go. And the kid that had it, he kind of changed the wheels, did some stuff. Well, Matt, being the mini truck curator that he is, he recently acquired that back. So we're going to hopefully see that next year at Mini Nats. Hopefully you can make it.
That was an awesome vehicle. As a matter of fact, I spotted him the first time at a show that was put on by Cruisin' Customs.
Yes.
A guy, Bill Cox out of Lakeland, Florida, used to do mini truck and mini car shows.
Yep.
All around the place. And he was drawing them in. He's just drawing them in from everywhere. So he and I got to be friends, and he would pay my way to go, and because he knew I was, limited funds, and he says, I'll get you a hotel. I'll give you a voucher for food. I'll do those as long as you come and cover my show. I was like, okay, let's do it. So I saw him at a show I saw Scott with the truck at a show that Bill did, and I think it was Cocoa Beach. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was a Cocoa Beach show. And the truck was not finished. And I saw Scott, and we talked for a while, and I said to him, this truck is awesome, but I can't, you need to do a little bit more to it. He goes, you tell me what, and I'll do it. And literally, he went out. The engine was in there. The paint was on it. I think there was a few things with the interior that needed work. But probably 2 weeks later, he calls me back. He goes, it's done. And I go, what do you mean it's done? He says, it's done. I go, okay. As in you're not going to do any more? He says, no, in that I've done everything that you've said. And I said, okay, let's see it. So he drove from Cocoa Beach or Orlando down to West Palm, for a show that I said, okay, bring it to this show and let's take a look at it. And he says, okay, I'm driving it. Actually, he trailered it, I think, that first time. Brought it down, and I was like, yeah, this is cover truck right here. This is a cover truck.
Yeah.
And I called up Steve and said, Steve, I got this truck. It's metal flake purple, Isuzu, convertible roof.
Rear engine.
With a Olds 88 V8 chrome to the hilt in the bed of the truck. He's like, really? I said, yeah, you're not going to believe this thing when you see it. He's like, oh, what is it? I said, it's an Isuzu. He said, an Isuzu? He says, we don't do them very often. And I said, well, I can do a cover for you and get it right out. And he says, okay, let's do it. He says, but do me a favor. Do you have any more Isuzus around there that are custom that, because we could do an Isuzu issue. And I knew the guy with the white truck from another show in Miami. And I called him up the morning of the shoot. And I said, dude, are you doing anything? No, I'm just sort of hanging out with my girlfriend. And I said, all right, you got enough gas to drive to West Palm?
That's awesome. Yeah, that was Seth, right?
He goes, why? He goes, why? And I said, well, I'm doing a cover shoot and I need your truck. And he's like, click. And he's off the road driving up to West Palm.
Yeah.
And girlfriend were there, and your friend Matt and Scott were there, and I said, oh, I got to do this one from a high angle because of the engine being in the back.
Oh yeah.
No, that was actually across the street from my house.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was going to ask.
Literally did it almost in my front driveway.
That's awesome.
Because it was so thrown together.
Well, we've got some ideas we can't share yet, but we got some ideas with this Isuzu at Mini Nats next year, which is in April. And we've been telling everybody next year's the 30th anniversary. Of course, Jason Bell and those guys, they're carrying on the legacy of the original Mini Nats. And I told Matt, and I talked to a couple of people, and I said, hey, we've got some ideas we're throwing around, so maybe you can make it out there.
For Mini Nats? Is that the Maggie Valley one?
That's going to be Maggie Valley in April 2024.
All right. I'll have to put that in my calendar.
Yeah, you have to see if you can make it. But, yeah, that's neat. And even though, if you span from 88 all the way to this issue, which was January 95, you still were doing, you still obviously, like you said, you pick up the phone, you call Steve, rest in peace, and you're able to cut those kind of deals. Now, did your connection to the magazine start to taper off at some point?
Yeah, actually, after doing stuff, and in that period of time, I had gotten married, had a baby on the way, and was doing like I said, I was doing the DJ thing, and things started happening at the magazine itself that kind of pushed me out in that they were sold off to a couple of other corporations.
Yeah, in 95, Prime Media acquired McMullen and Yee Publishing, and they created Macmillan Argus, as you know, publishing.
Right. Well, I mean, Steve was still there, but he was like, yeah, my freelance budget got cut. So I don't, I'm not sure how much I'm going to be able to do for you anymore. And I was like, I was kind of sad, but at the same time, I was like,
different place in your life at that point.
Yes, I was so busy that it wasn't hard to let go of at that point in time. That was a different time. And in the same thing, literally during that span when I left California and did the TV thing and did all those, photo labs and things like that, those odd jobs that you do just to get by. I had been getting calls from editors of probably 10 different other magazines, not just McMullen books, but Lowrider called me, Dick DeLoche, said, hey, I know you're doing stuff for Steve, but, we really need some Miami, West Palm stuff. And I said, okay. And he says, here's a couple of Lowrider contacts that I know down there. So call them up and see what you can arrange. And I said, well, I don't want to screw up my deal with Steve. And he says, we'll just put a different name on the story, but we'll pay you. So I ended up doing a bunch of stories for Lowrider with a fictitious name, which turned out to be my wife's.
That's awesome.
I took her maiden name and put him on.
That's great. Yeah. And for some people that don't know, too, just want to mention this: Mr. McMullen, he passed away in a tragic accident at 95.
Yeah.
Which
A
probably
plane.
was
He
a
had
plane.
He had a personal airplane, and he was flying somewhere, and either mechanical problems or weather related, I don't know for sure. But yeah, he passed away in that crash along with his wife.
Oh, wow. Rest in peace to him. And that's probably what ushered in, naturally, the boss is, he's, and then things, in the mid-90s, things were changing a little bit. And, obviously pretty far from the internet starting, but you know what I mean?
Yes. And like I said, they changed the magazine around. You saw they got rid of the rainbow logo for Truckin', and you saw how many iterations there were for Mini Truckin' and their logo. I mean, they changed that. And a little inside story on the logo, we never really liked that original logo.
From issue one.
Right, from issue one, nobody really liked it in on staff, so it got changed probably 4 or 5 times over the next few years. And I think this #1 issue is the only one with that bright pink and yellow.
It is, and the neat thing is, I think Logan Wade. I mean, I haven't really got inside his brain yet on this topic, but I think some of the strokes and stuff of the new logo. Obviously they're paying homage to a certain extent throughout the years, but I do think it has that hint of the original first logo. But here's the other thing too: when Alan Paradise was on, and everybody's going to have their different iteration, not creating any controversy or anything here, but Alan kind of had recalled even going to the guy that maybe designed the first logo and things like that, and it's neat to hear that stuff, even that it's 35 years later, if that's 100% true or even 95% true, because the cool thing is like we wouldn't get to hear any of this stuff if it wasn't for you guys.
Well, good thing we're still alive then, huh?
right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is Ron Snowden was the lead graphic designer for Truckin' and in extension Mini Truckin', and he and Steve were at odds a lot about style of Truckin' and Mini Truckin', and because there was a short deadline for Mini Truckin', Steve said, "Well, we're just going to have to go with what you did," but he kind of rest assured said, the next logo is not going to look like that.
Yeah.
So,
interesting.
And then everybody had the same idea, right? So,
yeah, and something I wanted to mention too, and I think you kind of hit on it earlier with talking about the Fuji film and stuff like that. When we had Brian,
Chrome, right?
Yeah, Chrome. When we had Brian McCormick on, I always loved reading his editorials, and Brian gave us a lot of cool insight. But I know I'm going to sound old here, but when you think about how primitive things were then, like I watched on Amazon Prime, I watched this series about like Playboy, how the magazine started. It was really intriguing. It was like his son played Hugh Hefner, and it's like the first. But when you see back in the '60s how they were putting together magazines with scissors and the way they print stuff. But you even get to the late 80s and the early 90s, and it's like, I mean, you could pretty much put together a magazine at your house now compared to the tools that you guys had, because, I mean, you're talking film, shipping this, cost. There was so much, and people just don't even understand that now.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, too, is when I first started doing stuff for Mini Truck Magazine, I was shooting 35 millimeter chromes, and then I started doing stuff for Truckin', and I was still sending them 35 millimeter for some stuff. And they basically looked at me and said, "Yeah, if you want cover stuff, we're going to need you to shoot in medium format." Which, if people that are not familiar with that from the day, there was 35 millimeter, there was full frame, which was 6 by 7 centimeters, and then there was medium format, which was either 6 by 4.5 or 6 by 7 or something like that. And then there was 6 by 9. And this is all millimeter size of the film. So it relates to 35 millimeter these days, because DSLRs currently are shooting in what they call full frame 35, which is...
It would eliminate, like the old film, right? Keep me honest, the little holes where it would pull it through. It's that same size film without the holes, right?
Well, 35 millimeter was actually, it had holes on the side, and it would pull from a canister across what they call the film plane, and that would be where the shutter would expose it. Mm-hmm. And then when you shot it, and then you hit the lever, or sometimes if you had what they call the speed drive, every time you hit the button, it would advance.
Right, that was like a revolutionary thing when that came out.
Right, yeah, and they had speed drives that could do up to 4.5 frames a second, but most of them were 2 frames a second. So if you had a power drive, it was the fast one. But yeah, now you can shoot in what they call burst mode in the DSLRs, and because you're not having to transport film across a exposure plane, the camera can reset itself within a millisecond to take another shot.
Yeah, and they even so far.
And they have active tracking on the focus too. So if you have your focus set on a certain subject, and the subject is changing its distance between you and itself, the camera will adapt to that and actively track the subject, keeping it in focus, even in burst mode, which back then you were just like, there's no way. There was no autofocus. You just had to be good to do it.
Right. No, that's cool. Now, let me ask you this. When you guys were in some of those offices, I remember seeing old footage of, magazines and stuff like this, 60s and 70s, and you would see these big tables, and people, they would take the... I don't want to say the slides, but you'd have the
chromes. The chromes would be laid out on a giant light table.
And the light table, and you look at them to a certain extent, right? Because there was a cost associated, I'm assuming, with developing all this film, even if it's in house. But do you would they kind of look at it and go, okay, yep, this is boom, right here you go, we got this. This is going to be the cover right here. Like, look at this shot, and you're looking through there, and you're like, all right, run this.
All the time. And a lot of sometimes we'd be sitting there arguing about which shot we wanted for the cover. Between, Steve, myself, Larry, we're all like, no, this one needs to be the cover. Oh, no, we like this one better, and it was just, it was crazy. It was a crazy time. When you look, we actually had a custom light table built for our office. None of the other offices had one like that. And it was funny because they would all come over from the other books and go, hey, can we use your light table? And we're like, no.
Yeah, see, those are the type of things that, like, when you watch those YouTube videos, it's like, 10 things you'll never see in a car again. It's like ashtrays, cigarette lighters, roll down windows, manual. But if you think about, too, like, even in the magazine industry, and you think about, I don't know a lot about the comic industry, but I know there was a guy that we knew, and his son went to some prestigious school, and he got on with like Marvel. And there might be one guy at Marvel that can do this one thing really good, and he or she does their part, and then it's it's all online. And then you have the next guy or lady that comes in, they draw, and it's all layered, and it's just like boom. It's like you could make a major motion picture almost everybody working remote to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And, that's the way of the future, and the way of now. Exactly, is that collaboration happens across the internet. There could be a guy in New York with an idea, and another guy in Atlanta that has the expertise to make it happen, and they're just Skyping, or just saying Skype makes me sound old.
You're like, I remember in my day we used to have a thing.
Wait a minute, it's FaceTime now. FaceTime or Zoom.
Right. No, that's
the truth. I mean, Zoom is the same thing. And speaking of doing that, the first time, now we didn't bring it up yet, but I produce a online video magazine called RevNTV.com, and when I had my logo built or made, or however you want to pronounce it, I used a guy in Orlando that currently works for Disney, but he was like the best guy I could find. And I went back and forth with him for 3 months about my logo idea. And finally I said, hey, do you know how to Skype? And he's like, yeah. And I said, do you know that on Skype, there's a button you can push where you can share your screen with me. You can still see me, but I see you your screen instead of you. So if you can do that with the computer you're building my logo on, then we can get this done real fast. And he's like, I've never heard of that before. So he did it. And we sat there and we went through, and I told him what I was looking for, and he was doing it on the screen while we were talking. And I'm like going, oh, that's good. No, not that. Do it a little more this way.
There you go. Yeah.
And he was afterwards, he actually got, I don't know what he said. I don't know if it was a Facebook or a MySpace. Maybe it was MySpace that he was on.
Right.
Think, might have been that far back. But he says, just finished doing a logo for a new client and did something extremely cool. And he described how we went online and did the thing. And he says, anybody else out there want to do this? I'm more than happy to do it for you because it saves me time and we can collaborate live.
That's awesome.
In person online. Yeah. And from that day forward, he was like, oh, this is the only way I'm working.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, that was a perfect segue because I was going to bring this up. Now, REVNTV.com, right? That lands you on the Facebook page?
No. REVV, two V's, two Victors, INTV.com.
Yep. So what I want to tell everyone is REVVIN, so two V's, Revin, IN.
Yeah.
So REVVINTV.com. If you go to RevinTV.com, you're going to be able to watch and even link over to the YouTube channel. But the cool thing is you can see them all right there on your main page.
Right. I set the web page up to be just a video, a place to park video.
Almost.
Yeah, you can look back. I have it set up in show coverage. I have it set up in feature cars, and then I have some archived. I mean, some of the videos I've done when I was still in Florida, like I had done Daytona Turkey Run. I had done Ocala Pumpkin Run. I had done at PBIR, which was Palm Beach International Raceway. We did a couple of shows there. And some of those are way back when I first started Revin TV. And I'm doing things differently from then. Back then, I was using a full-size broadcast camera, and it got heavy over the years.
Sure.
So I don't want to give away secrets.
Right.
I mean, unless you've seen me at the car shows, you would not realize that we don't use those big giant cameras anymore.
Right. Yeah, and I like that, bumping into you and meeting you at the Spark Show, one of our favorite shows in Sevierville.
Uh-huh.
The cool thing is that I had seen your YouTube channel, and we had exchanged a comment here and there, and it was neat to go on your website afterwards because, like, you have two ballistic on there as a tribute. You have hot rods, you have full size trucks. You're not just one one kind of automotive website.
Well, right. That kind of reflects what I went through in my transformation from mini trucks. Because, I started out as a mini truck guy, and, I owned a Toyota, 74 Toyota truck. And, back then, you didn't do much to them. I mean, I put like Kragers on it and fat tires and like a ground effects kit. But that was it. And then, as time went on, I started looking at, the other cultures of rodding, besides mini trucks. You got the muscle car guys, you got the street rodders, you got the full size pickup truck guys. There is so many different iterations of the culture that I had to reflect that when I did Revin TV. I couldn't just pick one, and that was one thing that kind of I understood later on after about working for magazines that were specific to one genre, was that there are so many different ideas from people. They all have, I don't like mini trucks, but I love 34 Fords or, something like that. You're all one group, but you keep yourselves separated.
Right.
And to me, you're all in it at this, all the ideas are all together the same. And that's what, to me, is impressive about the mini truckers of today is they are throwing some tried and true hot rod tricks into their mini trucks that are just, so cool, to see a guy doing suicide doors. I mean, those have been around for 100 years. People are doing, the buildup of the engines the same way. Now, obviously, there's so much more technology there too.
Sure.
You've got the fuel injection. You've got so much more going on there that both the street rodders, the muscle car guys, the full size truck guys, the mini trucks, the Volkswagens, everybody they're working out of the same basket kind of technologies and trends. And, it's kind of crossing over. And, I hate to go to a show and see, a group of guys that is put themselves into a corner and they won't talk to these old school rodders, or the old school rodders won't come and talk to the mini truck guys. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah, because we're all in it for the same love, the automotive world. Here's something I want to reinforce, though. We're talking with Doug Kulp, REVVINTV.com.
Yes.
One thing that we didn't really spend a lot of time on, but I wanted to highlight it, is if you go to his website, you're going to see, not only was he the Truckin Magazine feature editor, but you've got deep inroads to the commercial producing side of the house from an ABC affiliate standpoint, and that's big stuff, right? Because there's pressure there, there's ad sales that go along with, now we have to produce this content, we want to make our clients happy. So you've been able, to me, to take some of the editorial stuff, mix that in with some of your affiliate stuff with ABC Television, and oh, by the way, you've got a very nicely well-produced Revin TV content, if you will.
Yeah, and that's part of it is, after going through the broadcast industry and learning the ins and outs of content creation and editing for impact, that, it carries over into what you see on Revin TV, because it's gotten really easy for people to do videos that they're not applying the basics a lot of times. And I don't want to say that I'm better than anybody, because everybody's got their own style.
Sure.
But my influence, it comes from television, commercial work, and news, where you had extremely limited time frame to get your message across.
Talking sometimes a minute or 2 minutes, right? I mean, we see kind of that things are a little sped up on TV, right? Because you got to keep their attention.
Yeah, you keep in mind that television only has so much time, and they have to cram everything they want to into that time frame. Where on the internet, it's open-ended. You can go 1 second to 2.5 to 3 hours if you really wanted to.
Sure.
But the one thing about Google Analytics and YouTube Analytics and all that is they track viewer retention down to the millisecond in some cases. And you can see where most people's attention span these days is very minimal.
Yep.
So it's great, if you got time to sit there and watch an hour-long, video on how to weave a basket, but
not everybody does, or not everybody wants to spend an hour learning that.
Right, and they get bored very quickly. So the whole idea is to catch their attention right off the bat and keep it. And I'm guilty of it. I want my videos to go for longer, but I'm like, I know I can't do that. So I have to make it fast-paced. I have to make it engaging and not very long. So the longest one I've ever done is 17 minutes, and I feel like that was way too long. But you get to a point where you need to keep it so short that your editing becomes quick and fast. And it's funny because I just did a video for Dave Hoke out in Townsend, Tennessee, and he does a show called the AD Nationals, which is all about the early 50s, late 40s to early 50s Chevy trucks, and which were at the time called ADs for the advertising that was focused on advanced design, and that's what they were calling them, were ADs for that short period of time. That's what they were, AD trucks. So if you ever see that, maybe I've imparted some knowledge
Heck
on
yeah.
you. But ADs are the rounder version of the Chevy trucks from 1948 till 55. After that, they get a little more squared, squared off. And they're, at that point, they're just called next gens, or, type 2s, or whatever you want to call them.
Sure.
But I just did a video for that show, and it incorporated some of their crews as well as the show itself. They do a cruise through the Smoky Mountains on the Friday night before the show, which is pretty neat if you think about it, because you see a line after line of these just beautiful AD trucks, and they're all cruising down the Foothills Parkway. It's pretty neat. But I did this whole video for him and sent it out to him. And the first thing he said was, "Wow, that's some fancy editing."
That's awesome. I know, and that's what you're gonna get if you guys just do me a favor. Check out revvintv.com and show Doug some love. And
yes,
if
I appreciate it.
Not only check out his website, but when some of these videos will link you over to the YouTube. Just subscribe there as well. I know some of you guys want to go right to YouTube sometimes, but going to the website makes it kind of nice and curated for all the content. But Doug, dude, it's been really cool chatting with you. Is there anything else that you think we maybe left any gaps or holes and that we need to hit on?
I'm sure there is, but we're already at an hour and 22 minutes. So
yeah, and I just want to say, listen, we salute you. I do want to say this too. Our friend Ed is a great guy, a big supporter. He mentioned, I was texting with him this week, and I said, "Hey, what do you want me to bring up?" He said, he didn't know all the history that Doug had with Mini Truckin. He recalls at shows that you would stop and talk with these guys, and he said, for all I knew, he was just another Florida photographer submitting photos. He said one time you saw him with a camera and video camera on a tripod and asked, who I was and who I was shooting for, and he said that, you guys kidded around, and, he just really appreciated, kind of how kind you were, and that you weren't bigger than, the local enthusiast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I learn from every encounter I have with, enthusiasts and owners and builders. And so to me, talking to you guys is an education, learning, how did you come up with that idea? What are you doing here? What is that about? Everything is an education to me. So I guess I go out of my way to find people that have done something unusual and find out where they got that idea and why they did what they did. And then exactly what the effect of it is too. Because, sometimes an idea is a great idea, but it may make things worse. So
right. Yeah, but like you said, if there's that old comment, or I'm sure it's a quote, it's like we never stop learning. And that's one cool thing that I've always thought about is when you go to a show and you interact with people or you see something cool, stop for a minute if you've got it and talk with them about the ride, because a lot of people, especially someone like yourself that shot for a national publication and has other inroads in media, it means the world to them. And for someone like Ed, who's well respected in our area, to remember that, that those are good. You had countless interactions like that, but it's still neat to have someone reflect on that. But Doug, I can't thank you enough.
Exactly.
And like I would tell everybody again, you think of you had 4 cover credits to your name, but countless other tech articles and features. We've learned a little bit even with Lowrider Magazine with different aliases and stuff, and it's really neat that you shared your history with us, man.
Well, actually, yeah, the 4 cover shoots that you have you're talking about are just
for just Mini Truckin, yeah.
I don't even know how many with Truckin.
Yeah, I was going to say with Truckin, and then possibly other publications.
Yeah, I did covers for Street Rodder. I did covers for All Chevy Magazine. I did covers for even VW Trends. I think I had 1 or 2.
That's awesome.
Just so you know, I'm not just American. I have publications overseas too that are using my stuff or did use. I had a Japanese magazine use one of my shots that was slated to go on Truckin', and then a German magazine actually was all about the neon stuff. They wanted to know about the neon. So it's just so funny, you know, when you get into this, the reach that you have all over the world. And it's unique and unusual at the same time. It's just, you know, you just never know what's going to come about. Even you know, just a quick shout out to Jason. He had the video blog about the first issue of Mini Truckin', and my nephew-in-law saw it, and he sent it to me.
Oh, wow. That's how it happened. Wow.
Right, yeah. He saw it. He says, "Hey, isn't this the magazine you used to work?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "Send that to me." So I downloaded it and watched the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think you commented, and Larry even commented, I think, on one of them, but I think you commented, and I was like, man, we got to link up. So it was neat when we were at the Spark Show. You came over, and you know, it's so neat, and I just got to throw this out there for everyone, you know, that doesn't know. Mini Truckin Magazine is back. It's Mini Truckin with an IN magazine, and what I would tell people is go out there and support the cause. You know, it's pretty neat that you were both Logan Wade and yourself were both there, and Logan's leading that effort. And as you can imagine, you know, it's an uphill battle, but you know, the passion that people have, I think that really drives some of the things that we love. And I certainly would encourage people to get on board and get ready, because next year is going to mark the 10th anniversary of the magazine going away in May of 2014, and they're looking to basically have minimum of 3 issues in print next year.
That's the 10th anniversary of Mini Truckin's demise, you said?
Yeah, May of 2014 to May of 2024, if that's... But now it's more, as you know, it's going to be more homegrown, you know?
Yes. It'll be a lot of East Coast stuff, I think, right? Less of the West Coast.
Yeah, I think he's going to try to mix it in, but I think obviously things have changed a little bit, and some of our good West Coast people have even acknowledged, you know, the West Coast really as of late hasn't had as many shows. I mean, they're not down to zero. Don't get me wrong.
No,
but there's a lot of Midwest, there's a lot of South. We call it Third Coast down in Texas. So I think there'll be a good mix, but certainly where Logan and those guys are located, kind of in the Tennessee region, as you know, you can get to like an offshoot of anywhere. So like literally they can go shoot features and hit all these different shows. Yeah. Whereas, you know, I'm in Florida, it takes me 4 hours almost to get out of the state, you know?
Yeah. Yes, true. Yeah. What is it? It's like a 7-hour state, right? If you go tip to tip.
Yeah.
A long drive for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate.
Well, you know, if I could encourage anybody out there that is interested in becoming someone that like supplies photos and stories for, you know, myself, Revan TV, or, you know, the new Mini Truckin', or even, you know, like Dan Ledbetter has refired the VW Trends.
Yep.
Yeah, they're back in print now too, and you know, it's like you said, it's a grassroots thing. These guys that are fans of the originals are like sad to see them go, and they're trying to bring them back in their own way. And the reason I did Revan TV was I just felt like I wanted to be back in it, and the only way I could do it on a budget was through the internet, and combining my experience from the publication and from television, I said, there's no question.
It's a no-brainer. Boom.
Right. It has to be an online TV. And that's why I added the TV in there, because I wanted to push the fact that it was video. So, you know, hopefully you guys can sit through, you know, a 3.5-minute video on a show.
Yeah. And we'll make sure we push it and tell people, hey, check it out. Support someone that supported our hobby for many years, including the infancy, if you will. And we can't thank you enough, dude. We salute you, and to you and your wife, you know, enjoy the rest of the week, brother.
I appreciate you doing this, and I appreciate you and the following you're building. So it's great to see it.
Dougie Kulp, one of the OGs, the legends, if you will, from a Mini Truckin Magazine standpoint. Thank you so much, Doug.
Yeah, not a problem, buddy. Appreciate it.
Yo, thank you so much, Doug Kulp, for joining the show. Appreciate everyone listening through. I'm going to wrap this up. Got to thank Joey and Tyler as well for coming through. As always, we couldn't do what we do without our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast. They've been with us since day one. Join us 2024 in June for Biloxi, one of the biggest, baddest shows at the Coliseum. More to come on that event. Now, typically, I'll cover this before the title guest, but I'll wrap it up with this weekend, as Mike mentioned earlier, is Showdown in the Valley. You can find more information on Facebook. More than likely, many of you are booked to already go there. If you aren't and you want to find out more about this Maggie Valley event every October, showdowninthevalley.com has more information. It's going to be the 6th, 7th, and 8th this weekend. The following weekend, I did want to link up with LMC, but they are having us up as guests for Cruising with Cruisers. That is in Whitesboro, Kentucky. You've heard us talk about that event. We hope that you can join us. Many of you have kind of jumped on and said, hey, we're going to be there, right? We want to support a great cause. That's going to go down Friday with a bunch of festivities, the show on Saturday, and then we'll peel out early Sunday so that Mike and I can be back to work on Monday. That's the 13th and 14th that weekend. The following week is going to be Last Resort. So Last Resort, of course, Louisiana Oil and Gas Park. The KIK family is behind this one. LastResortShow.com for more information. That's every October. This year it's going to be the 20th, the 21st, 22nd. That's the weekend of my son's born day, so we'll be staying local. For anybody that's in Florida, there is a show in Lakeland, Lake Mirror Classic, and I know it's going to be somewhat of Concours d'Elegance type show, but I think there's also going to be a lot of other stuff, and I believe it's donations only. It's for a charity. That's out in Lakeland for anybody that wanted to know. I didn't mention this earlier, but SEMA 2023, I did book for that. I'm especially excited to go see my brother Randy with Two Ballistic. Of course, he's repping NC. He's going to be out there in the kicker booth. We'll talk more about that, I guess, on the next episode. We got one more episode before SEMA, and I'll try to do maybe a SEMA preview of some sort. But Las Vegas, we're going to be out there. I'm not going to stay the whole week because I'm going to come home and do some family stuff as well. So it's that work-life podcast balance. We will be at the SEMA kickoff party, which is hosted by Freaks of Nature at Hogs and Heifers. That's going to be Monday, October 30th. SEMA will kick off on Tuesday the 31st, technically, and it's going to run through that week. But rest assured, I'm going to do as much as I can that Monday, Tuesday, because I'll be gallivanting home on that Wednesday. So my understanding, Pat Nickel out there is going to be out there. You know, he built Ballistic 30 years ago, and there's going to be more coming on Randy's Two Ballistic that we'll be able to share with you guys and ladies in the very near future. After that, we're going to have the 6th annual Tampa Kennedy Cruise on the 18th. That is 60 years to the day that JFK was visited Tampa. Of course, the 60th anniversary of his assassination is also coming up. That's going to be on November 22nd, but we will do our cruise on the 18th of November. Daytona Turkey Run, also known as the Turkey Rod Run, most of us call it. That'll, of course, be Thanksgiving through that whole entire weekend. After that, I think the only other show that's on our radar is the grand finale. Craig and team, that's going to be in Houma, Louisiana, the 8th, 9th, and 10th that weekend. So there you go. The show updates is brought to you by our kinfolk at The Spark Show, as we mentioned earlier, thesparkshow.com. More information coming on their 2024 event, which I believe is going to be their 11th annual. That's always in Sevierville, Tennessee. The podcast updates, the only one that I have is if you're an early listener, we're slated to end our recent pre-sale on that Friday, day one. However, we may extend it through Sunday and submit the order on Monday to Graphic Disorder. We've got a Mazda, Chris Anders Mazda, that appeared on our River Run shirt, but we've done another remix, and we have the full laid out topless Mazda. Go to ourlifestylepodcast.com and order one of those. You can get 3 colors during the pre-sale, only 1 color after the pre-sale ends. So if you want the pink or the teal Jump in now. If you want the larger sizes and the tall sizes, we don't typically stock those because we're very, very small and we don't have the room or the capital to just have tons and tons of shirts in stock. So ourlifestylepodcast.com. Podcast updates brought to you by Graphics Mafia, GRAPHIX, mafia.com if you want stickers or decals for your business. Last but not least, the Eastbound Get Down FAQ. We covered a few of these earlier with Miggity Mike before he had to drop. But I would just encourage people to go to Eastbound Get Down Show, just how it sounds, altogether.com. You're going to see that iconic graphic disorder artwork at the top, the show schedule, hotel info, sponsors, contact information, you name it. They've done a great job on this website, and you can pre-register for purple, for red, these different areas, the pavilion VIP. It's all right there. They even have the sound side of things, eastboundgetdownshow.com. The Eastbound Get Down FAQs for this week is brought to you by CNS Metalworks. We've told you time and time again, cs-metalworks with an s.com. Also, CNS Metalworks on Facebook and Instagram. Chris and team are doing some really cool stuff. We recently heard from Ruben. They just laid out another Impala, super clean. And oh, by the way, it's not on juice, it's on air. So pretty cool stuff. If you want to bag your ride, or if you need AccuAir, Universal Air, bags in general, hit up Chris Burns at C&S Metalworks. Let him know that OLP sent you. We can't thank you guys enough, and the ladies out there, for all the support. Be safe. Rest in peace, Papa Smurf. It's the 6th anniversary this month. It's always tough for me, losing my pops in October, and I'll be thinking of him. Appreciate all the love. Much respect to Doug Kulp and family. Stay on the rise, everyone. We out ya.